All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Auburn's got a brand new head coach, Hugh Freeze, that was formerly at Ole Miss and had some success at Liberty, had an embattled past. You talk about some crimes of moral turpitude, calling escorts on the university phone system. Come on, Hugh, you can't do that. Also, numerous violations in recruiting that probably would have been legal now, especially you got the NIL, you got all that stuff going on. But Hugh Freeze now is the Auburn's head coach. And when we look at the past few years of Auburn from an offensive production standpoint, I mean, you're talking about 28.3 points per game in 2021 under Brian Harsin. That makes him the 68th ranking in all of college football. I mean, just not good. I mean, you know, really abysmal when you talk about the points that you need to win in the SEC, let alone Power 5 football. And a lot of those results were inflated by 60 points against Akron, 62 points against Alabama State. But then when you look at the rest of the season, you know, the last few games of the year, you got 3 points against Texas A&M, 34 against Mississippi State, 17 against South Carolina, 22 against Alabama, and then 13 against Houston. I mean, that's not going to get you where you need to be as far as having a chance to be at least middle tier in the SEC. Then you look at the 2022 season, you know, Auburn averaging 24 points per game. Their opponents averaged 29.5 points per game. And you talk about a situation where Auburn scored 42 points against Mercer, 24 against San Jose State. And then it just got really bad after that. 12 points against Penn State, 17 points against Missouri, 17 against LSU, and the list goes on and on. Strangely enough, once Carnell Williams took on the Auburn as interim head coach for the Auburn Tigers, I mean, you're talking about a situation where they scored 27 against Arkansas. Well, no, 33 against Mississippi State, 13 against a very talented, yet, you know, these guys hadn't broke out yet. 13 points against Texas A&M, 41 points against Western Kentucky, and then 27 against Alabama. So the offensive production actually picked up after Carnell Williams took over as interim head coach. So where do we go from here? During the offseason, there is usually a lot of clamor, a lot of chatter as to what folks are going to do. You got a lot of, you know, you always have the coaching carousel for the teams that, you know, haven't performed as well. We knew Auburn was going to be among those teams with Brian Harsin being fired mid-season. I have to give a big shout out to the 4-8 crowd that said that Auburn would go 4-8, and they were absolutely almost right. Auburn went 5-7, and as many of them said, Brian Harsin would not make it through the end of the season. A big question, though. Auburn has a pretty good running back on this football team that's been around for a little while. He's dealt with the trials and tribulations of, you know, he's dealt with, now if he decides to stay, you know, will have had 3 head coaches in his tenure and just barely missed out on his second 1,000-yard season under the Auburn Tigers, and that's Tank Bigsby. Will he come back? That's the question on the floor. Will Tank Bigsby come back and maybe have an opportunity to have some type of redemption? He's among one of the statistical leaders In Auburn history, he's done pretty well. But when you look at his stock in the NFL, I don't think this is the time for Tank Bigsby to go early. I think he's got to come back. I think he's got to come back and have a very solid season under a seasoned offensive mind that has really been productive at each school that he's been at. Tank Bigsby has a huge upside. You know, you get some coaching on the offensive line. You get some coaching at the quarterback position to where Auburn actually has an opportunity to have a somewhat productive season offensively. And I think from a value standpoint, Tank Bigsby's got to come back. He's got to come back. He's got to have that last season if he wishes to have any type of chance up front in the NFL with a decent contract. And you got, as a running back especially, you got to have a decent contract because the lifespan, he can ask his mentor, Carnell Williams, who did not, I mean, he was good for a while, but the lifespan of a running back in the NFL, the value of the running back position in the NFL is just not what it used to be. And I think Tank Bigsby, to give himself a chance to get some of that upfront money and give himself a chance to, you know, be able to succeed in subsequent life, he's got to come back. He's got to come back, and he has to have a very successful season. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.